All right, everyone, August 24th, 2012. By now, it's mid afternoon. You've heard about the Empire State Building shooting. Multiple wounded after gunman opens fire. And I am going to put the link to this article below in the Show More section. And along with this video, I'm going to play this video in just a moment because the two reporters, this is coming from the Huffington Post. These two reporters for the Huffington Post are pushing and pressing gun control. Now, I wonder what Mayor Bloomberg thinks about it. The numbers have increased, and those that have been wounded, now it's up from 8 to 11. But let me bring you mainstream media's report, and then I'm going to tell you what mainstream media is not telling you about this shooting. False flag, let's find out. New York Associated Press, a recently fired store worker shot a former colleague to death, shot him multiple times in the head at close range, and then randomly started shooting others near the Empire State Building before he was shot by police officers, law enforcement officials said. Well, what mainstream media is not telling you is that the 8, or now it's risen to 11 people that were shot by not just this fired co-worker, this fired store worker. They were shot by stray bullets from police officers. So should we have gun control for the people and for the police officers as well? Because this fired former store worker did not shoot all of these people. Some were shot by stray bullets from police officers. 8 other people, now it's risen to 11, were struck by bullets when the shooting started at about 9 a.m. on the Fifth Avenue side of the building, but those injuries are not believed to be life-threatening, police said. Again, the gunman didn't strike all of these 11 people. Some were shot by stray bullets coming from the guns of police officers. So do we need gun control for police officers as well? That's what mainstream media is not telling you. I think you're going to enjoy this video. Let's take a listen.
You're watching HuffPost Live. I'm Ahmed Shahabuddin, and I'm joined by Alicia Menendez. So you guys must have heard the news. We were just talking about it. The shooting outside the Empire State. It seems around 9 a.m. 5 people were shot, up to 5 people. Of course, the story's breaking. And I think my gut, Alicia, to be honest with you, is just when I hear these stories, I think, when is it going to end? I know it's a cliche question to ask, but sometimes when these things happen, elsewhere in the country, you feel so detached, so far removed, but it's happening in New York.
Yeah, and we are in New York,
right,
for anyone who doesn't know that.
Right.
And yeah, you and I talk a lot about gun control, and I think the most alarming...
Did she just say gun control? Does this mainstream media, Huffington Post reporter, just say the word gun control? Let's listen again.
New York,
right,
for anyone who doesn't know that.
Right.
And yeah, you and I talk a lot about gun control, and I think the most alarming thing to me is that logically to me, when you have an event like this, you would think you'd see a spike in support for gun control, and
right,
it's actually quite to the contrary.
Yeah, it's been...
Do you think?
Missing. I mean, we have a community joining us actually, as well as our New York editor. So why don't we bring them into this conversation? We have Chris Mateus, the New York editor, joining us from the Huffington Post, as well as Alex in our community, Chelsea, and Michael. Now, we don't know this for certain, but it seems that there might have been some sort of a disagreement between co-workers. But aside from the breaking aspects of the story, my gut went to, when are we going to have that real conversation about gun control?
About gun control, there we go.
I think gun control is such a touchy issue in this country because, you've got with people's interpretation of the constitutional right to bear arms versus the safety of the culture, safety of the society, and as long as that's going to be a major debate as opposed to a solid agreement among people, we're going to have incidents like this where people are going to feel like it's perfectly okay to carry a gun, a concealed weapon, etc.
It is perfectly okay to carry a gun. To open carry, you don't need a CPL or a CCW permit to carry. You can open carry. It's legal. It's legal. The police cannot even ask you for your ID. If you want to conceal it and hide the weapon, then you need a CPL or a CCW, as it's also known.
Chris, why don't we come to you? I know you're following this story. You know, I can't help but think 90 guns for every 100 people in this.
90 guns for every 100 people in the United States, or that means we have the right to bear arms and we can protect ourselves and our freedoms and our Constitution.
Country. Is this just the fact that there's too many guns out there?
There's too many guns, so we need to have gun control, take the guns away from the American people so we can't defend our rights.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Mayor Bloomberg has been going across the country talking about for the past few weeks.
Who was that? Mayor Bloomberg? Of course, Mayor Bloomberg.
And it's definitely an issue here in New York City. But you know, at the moment, this seems like a different kind of shooting that we're not, you know, used to seeing necessarily in New York City, namely in Midtown near the Empire State Building.
I was actually just
Now, real quick, she's going to start talking about people in Canada who are gun owners and how there is no crime. But they're going to cut her short. Just take a listen.
speaking about this issue last night over dinner with some friends, and I brought up the issue of how there's so many guns here, and how in other places in Europe, for example, you don't see this type of gun violence. But in a more comparable society, in Canada, for example, there are a lot of guns, a lot of citizens own guns. There's a lot of shooting and hunting and things like that for recreational value. But you don't see these shootings of fellow citizens.
Chris, can you
happening
substantiate?
on the
See how she cuts her off? Let me rewind this just for, if I can, just for a second. She's going to cut her off, get rid of her quick, and get somebody else up there. Just totally cut her off. Watch.
In Canada, for example, there are a lot of guns. A lot of citizens own guns. There's a lot of shooting and hunting and things like that for recreational value. But you don't see these shootings
Bye.
of fellow citizens.
Chris, can you
happening
substantiate?
on the
Can't have her say that. Got to get rid of her.
streets of
Can you substantiate for us what we
large
know?
cities.
I
Cut her
wanna
right
make sure
off.
We have the facts that we do have on the table before
Right.
we all start reacting.
And
Sure, yeah. I mean, the details have been all over the place this morning. But what we do know that the AP can confirm is that the gunman is dead. At least 4 people have been wounded, although we're getting reports.
No, at least 11. Last that I was, the last count that I could come up with were 11, and some of the 11 shot by guns, stray bullets from police officers.
Reports now that the New York Post just tweeted that 10 people have been shot, and there's a witness at the scene.
10, 11. How many of the 10 or 11 were shot by stray bullets from a police officer's gun? Do we need to confiscate the police officer's weapons?
He told Fox News that the gunman was shooting indiscriminately at people.
these are 2 ambulances on the scene earlier today. This is one of the photos that's being circulated. Here's another one. This is just, coming in. Anthony DeRosa tweeting it as well. This is at 5th Avenue. There's other photos suggesting that, this tweet suggesting, of course we can't verify this, that a Gray Line worker was one of the victims, at least one of the victims that was shot. But Chris, what is your personal reaction as a New Yorker? I mean, you live here. This is where we live. This is where I live, and this is home. And when this stuff happens at home, even without knowing all the facts, I think it really sparks a real, triggers a really visceral reaction, at least for me.
It's a horrifying thing when something like this happens. And, immediately I think everyone around the office this morning were calling their friends to see if they were okay. A lot of people know people who work in or near the Empire State Building, and, it's just a horrifying thing.
It seems as though we're not going to be able to take our focus off of it. Alex, I want to hear from you as well. What's going through your mind?
I mean, I have a lot of friends, especially here in San Diego, that have guns, and what they say is that, I have my gun, so these kind of shootings could never happen when I'm around, such as the Aurora shooting.
And it probably wouldn't if they knew that they had the right to bear arms, if they knew they could open carry. And most people don't know that you can legally open carry without a permit. You don't need a permit. You don't need a CCW or CPL. It's your right to purchase a handgun and put it in a holster and wear it on your side. You can go grocery shopping with it. And if everyone did that, there would be no shootings.
Because they're like, well, I'm packing heat, and that's the thing is the
And that's just it with the Aurora shooting, the Batman shootings. Nobody in that theater had a weapon, and if it was just commonplace to open carry, the crime would stop. Take away the guns, and crime is going to increase. The government can implement martial law. You can't defend yourself with a gun stuck in your face, and you don't have a weapon to defend yourself. Disarm the American people.
the crux of the issue because people have said every time there's a shooting, they're like, well, if we have guns, then we can stop the gunmen and stuff like that. But
You could. So wake up.
I don't think that's going to be. I don't think that's going to be the answer.
What's interesting is that I know more people now who are saying, like, for instance, with the, I guess what's being called the Batman shootings, people are like endorsing the fact. It's like, well, if everybody in that theater had a gun, this wouldn't happen.
It wouldn't have happened, you shill.
The debate is really twisted. I think there needs to be, as we were talking about earlier, and as you were inferring earlier, there needs to be a national debate on this, maybe separate from the New York issue. Maybe there's some other things going on there that Mayor Bloomberg is bringing to the forefront. But I think this is a major debate, and it shouldn't be politicized. Of course, it's going to be politicized. But
It's going to be politicized as a false flag event. Another reason to bring about President Barack Hussein Obama's gun treaty to confiscate guns from the American people. Oh, we got to do it now.
guns is guns is guns, and we've got to figure out what to do with this issue. Just in general, is my feeling.
Right.
It's not gonna. This is just gonna escalate.
Well, we need to let the people know they can open carry. All right, everyone. I thought I would present this to you on both sides, the mainstream media, and what's really going on. Leave me comments.